My daughter left college for a boyfriend my age until he arrived at my door with shocking secrets. I thought I had built a strong, independent life for myself and my daughter Megan. But when she arrived one evening with Grayson, a man older than me with secrets of his own, I felt my world tilt. I never imagined how deeply he would change everything for both of us. Chapter 1. I spent years building my life, a successful career, a cozy seaside home, and raising my daughter, Megan, all on my own. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, I felt the ache of something missing, maybe the comfort of a partner, a steady shoulder to lean on when life felt heavy. That night, I had planned a warm evening with Megan. I set the table carefully, lit candles, and waited with a hopeful heart. "Mom, this is Grayson," Megan said a few hours later, clinging to the arm of a man who looked older than me. He was tall, with a polished suit and a steady, confident smile. "Erica, pleasure to meet you," he said, extending his hand. "Likewise, Grayson," Megan didn't mention, aghast. I replied, forcing a polite smile. Megan laughed, but it sounded strained. I thought it would be a nice surprise. Grayson's eyes scanned the room as if assessing its worth. I sat across from them, feeling an uncomfortable silence growing. "So, Grayson," I ventured, "what do you do?" "Finance. Investments," he answered smoothly, taking a sip from his glass without another glance. "Finance. Huh?" I murmured, glancing at Megan. "And Megan, how's university?" "Mom, maybe university isn't the answer to everything." "What are you saying?" I asked, trying to keep calm. "We worked so hard to get you there. Remember? With Grayson, I feel free. He understands me in a way no one else does." My irritation bubbled up. "And how long has this been going on?" Grayson stood, adjusting his cufflinks with a slight, dismissive smile. "If you'll excuse me, I'll step outside for a moment." As soon as he was gone, I turned back to Megan, the words spilling out. "Megan, what are you doing with him?" "He's older?" she shot back, with a stubborn look in her eyes. "Maybe that's exactly what I need. But, Megan, he's not just older. He's from a different world. You barely know him." "I know enough. With him, I don't have to worry about grades or career plans. I can just breathe." "But we've worked so hard for your future. You're almost done with university. Megan, don't throw it all away for someone else's dreams." She rolled her eyes. "That's the thing, Mom. Maybe your idea of a future isn't the same as mine. Grayson understands that. He's lived. He's seen the world. He knows what it means to enjoy life instead of always planning for the next step." "Enjoy life? Megan, you must make your own way, or you'll always depend on someone else," I said firmly. "And if you drop out of college, don't expect me to support you financially. You'll be on your own." "Pfft. Great. I have Grayson's money. I don't need yours. Let's see how long that lasts," I replied, hoping she'd realize what she was risking. "You two should leave in the morning." Megan's face flushed, and she turned without another word, storming off. That evening, we sat in silence, barely touching our meals. Despite everything that happened, Megan seemed to hope I would soften toward Grayson. Suddenly, a sharp knock shattered the silence. Megan opened the door, and there stood a young woman, her face flushed, eyes rimmed red as if she'd been crying for hours. "Rachel?" Grayson whispered. Her gaze was locked onto him. "You," Rachel spat. "You promised me. You told me I was the only one." Grayson's face paled. "Rachel, please, not here. This isn't the time." Not the time? She interrupted, her voice climbing higher with each word. I had to track you down. I put a GPS on your car because I couldn't get a straight answer from you. Her words turned into sobs. Megan's face twisted in shock, and I felt a pang of relief. That was the truth she needed. Even if it was painful. Is this true? Megan's voice was cold. You lied to me? Megan. Listen. It's complicated. I didn't mean complicated. You thought you could just keep lying, jumping between us? How many others are there? Grayson? He opened his mouth, but no words came. Megan stepped forward, her hands pushing him back toward the door. You need to leave. Now. I don't want to see you ever again. Grayson stumbled toward the door. He was nothing to Megan now. I watched in shock as he staggered down the driveway. At that moment, the blinding headlights of an oncoming car rounded the corner, its tires screeching in a sharp, desperate attempt to stop. The sickening sound of impact tore through the night as Grayson crumpled onto the pavement. Motionless. My hands flew to my mouth, horror flooding through me as I stared. The doctor at the hospital said Grayson wasn't in any condition to travel far. At least not for a while. Normally, I would have suggested he stay at a hotel, but our town's only one was closed for repairs. I couldn't bring myself to send him out onto the street with no other options. So, despite everything, I offered him a place to stay. And honestly, I had started to feel a hint of sympathy for him. There was a sadness in his eyes, a deep loneliness that made him seem not as terrible as I'd first imagined. I saw someone who seemed genuinely unhappy and maybe even a little lost. But Megan's reaction took me by surprise. The very next morning, without so much as a backward glance, she decided to leave. She didn't say goodbye or ask how he was doing. You're better at this, Mom, she said flatly, slipping Grayson's bank card into her bag. I never loved him. I was just using him for the money. And he didn't care. He loved showing me off like a trophy. It was all just business between us. Her words stung, even though I'd suspected their relationship wasn't real. Hearing her admit it so bluntly cut deeper than I'd expected. And just like that, she was gone, leaving me alone with Grayson. The first few days were filled with silence. Grayson stayed mostly in the guest room, moving slowly with the aid of a walker. I did the bare minimum, bringing him meals and helping him with bandages. One afternoon, he surprised me by asking, "Do you play chess?" I blinked, caught off guard. I used to. Years ago. Well, he said, with a faint smile, maybe you could refresh my memory. I haven't played in years. I admitted, setting up the board. Same here, Grayson replied, his hand hovering over the pieces as he tried to remember the opening moves. And from that day on, we found ourselves lingering over the chessboard, spending hours each afternoon in quiet conversation. Grayson began to open up, revealing sides of himself I hadn't expected. He had a gentle charm, refined manners, and a surprisingly kind heart. I couldn't help but wonder how he had become the brazen man my daughter had brought home, the one who seemed so shallow and careless. One day, after a long pause in the game, Grayson looked out at the ocean and sighed. You know, I lost my wife when we were young. She was everything to me. After she passed, I just drifted. That must have been hard. It left a hole, one I couldn't fill. Not with work, or travel, or people. He glanced at me, a faint, sad smile touching his lips. The younger women, they were never what I needed. His honesty was something real. There was a man who'd spent years running from his heartbreak while I had built walls to keep from feeling anything too deeply. Time passed, and by the time Grayson had fully recovered, I was already hopelessly in love with him. He was a man who had simply needed real companionship. Someone who'd been missing from my life as much as I'd been missing from his. He carried a deep sense of guilt over everything that had happened with Megan. One day, he suggested gently, "Let's go into town and talk to Megan together." Part of me worried about how she'd react. But having Grayson by my side made me feel ready to face whatever came next. We found Megan at a small cave downtown due to her friend's instructions. "What are you two doing here?" Megan asked, her tone colder than I'd hoped. Grayson smiled calmly. "Just wanted to talk. Maybe have a coffee together?" Megan rolled her eyes. But she didn't walk away. "Fine. 5 minutes." We settled at a table. Megan listened, her gaze flicking between us. "Why are you even here, Grayson?" She finally burst out. "Is this some attempt to act like a father figure?" "No, Megan. I'm here because I care about you. And because you deserve the chance to decide what you really want without pressure from me or your mom." "Well, I already know what I want. I have enough money on your card to get by until I find someone else. Someone younger this time." Frustration rose in me. But Grayson's hand gently squeezed my arm under the table. A silent reminder to stay calm. "Megan," I said quietly, "we're here to remind you of who you are, someone who's always been brave, smart, and independent. I don't want you to give up on your potential." For a long moment, Megan didn't say anything. Then she reached across the table, picked up my coffee cup, and took a sip as if to stake her own ground. "You know what? I'll think about it," she muttered. Grayson offered a gentle nod. "That's all we wanted, Megan." "Fine. But don't expect any miracles. I'm not ready to fall into line just because you two showed up out of nowhere." A few days later, I got a call from Megan. "Mom, maybe you were right. I don't have access to Grayson's card anymore. And I can't find a stable place to live. None of these men take me seriously. I miss my old life. My friends. The campus." She paused, then added, "I'm so sorry. I think I want to go back to college. I promise to try this time, Mom." Hearing that, I felt the familiar Megan returning, ready to build her future. Grayson's steady influence somehow helped me reach her in a way I hadn't managed before. As I hung up, Grayson looked at me with a proud smile. "I love you. We'll cope with everything together." And just like that, a quiet peace settled over me. For the first time, I felt ready to let go of my need for control and trust in what lay ahead. We stood there, hand in hand, watching the waves crash against the shore, knowing life would bring its challenges but that we'd face them together. Tell us what you think about this story, and share it with your friends. It might inspire them and brighten their day.